How is it possible to take one of the most iconic movie villains of all time and turn them into this? Or to take a super spy like Nick Fury and turn them into this? Loki Season 2 won't save the MCU for one simple reason. It's just more of the same. More of the same streaming strategy that isn't working.
Not a great plan.
Taking great characters like these and putting them straight onto Disney Plus is the modern day equivalent to the direct-to-video Disney sequels that everyone forgot about. Remember The Lion King 2? Or Aladdin 2? Or Bambi 2? Of course not. Nobody is going to watch or talk about a film in the same way they would if it went to movie theatres first. And it's not just that. These direct-to-streaming shows are actually destroying the franchise as a whole by damaging their reputation. I'm not saying get rid of Disney Plus, but I am saying that projects like Loki and Secret Invasion should, first of all, be made into movies rather than 4-hour TV shows, and secondly they should be released to cinemas first, then later uploaded to streaming, like a month after, in the same way that movies used to go from cinema to DVD a month after release. Disney Plus should be an online catalogue of movies, like a shelf of DVDs. It shouldn't try to replace cinema or traditional television. But it's not just the business strategy that's making these projects fail, it's also the content itself. Everyone knows by now that the MCU has been struggling to find its footing after Endgame. The multiverse saga hasn't been able to capture the attention of the average moviegoer because it's just too much to wrap your head around. Literally everything everywhere all at once. And the villain Kang is the embodiment of this problem. Where once the MCU was a tight timeline you could watch over the course of a week, now it connects to every Marvel project ever, with endless copies of the same characters. And that's just not something your average Joe can get invested in. I just see all these versions of Kang and think, why should I care? Especially when you show me one version of Kang, then kill him, then show me a second version, and kill him as well, and a third, and you get the idea. I don't understand how Marvel expects us to be invested in a villain that keeps getting killed over and over again. If the Avengers had killed Thanos 10 times before Endgame, it would have completely destroyed the stakes. The only way I can see Kang working as a character is if they take a page out of George Lucas's book. In the prequel era of Star Wars, more specifically the Clone Wars, the clones are actually among the most interesting characters. Yes, they're all visually similar, but this blank canvas allows each clone to show their individual personality and their journey. An army of clones in Star Wars and an army of Kangs in Ant-Man aren't so different when you really look at it. So if Star Wars can make it work, then so can Marvel. And I think that will start once we get one Kang variant to focus on. With Star Wars, this focused character was Captain Rex. Once you have a focused character as a foundation, then you can build other variants like Fives, Echo, Wolf, and so on. We didn't care about the clones dying when they were just a mass of CGI soldiers, but we certainly care now. I understand what they're trying to do with the multiversal Kang storyline in Loki, but it's just not working. They don't have enough character left in the MCU to hold up such a large plot. Characters are what keeps us invested. The plot is secondary. The MCU right now is like one of those spaghetti marshmallow bridges that you would build in school. Every old character that's killed off is like taking away another piece of spaghetti that's supporting the bridge. The plot of the story is like the cars going over the bridge. The more you add plot and take away characters, the more likely that bridge is going to collapse. You're probably saying that this isn't a problem because despite removing old characters, they're also introducing new characters to replace them. But I think we can agree that these replacement characters simply don't have the same depth or impact as those who came before. These new characters may not be as strong, but this show was about Loki, and Loki is one of the OG MCU characters. So what's the problem? Well, the problem lies in the fact that his character has changed so much that it no longer resembles the person we fell in love with. Loki works best as a villain. In fact, my favourite part of episode 2 was getting a small taste of this power when he chased Brad through London. Getting to see Loki confident and using his magic again was great, but it was so short-lived. Straight after, he went back to this new, uninteresting version of Loki. In episode 3, Loki is once again using his powers, but not in any interesting ways. He mostly just uses big green blasts of energy. This is the god of mischief. He should be coming up with clever ways to capture Kang and save him from Sylvie's attacks, or use the teleportation ability that he showed a moment ago, when he put a man into a cage, to instead teleport Kang into a cage. Problem solved. Loki is supposed to be one of the most intelligent characters in the MCU, even managing to outsmart the Avengers. But I guess he can only be as smart as the writers. His brother Thor is another example of this problem. Both of these OG MCU characters were once powerful and intelligent, but now they have been dissected and broken down until they are unrecognisable. To go back to the spaghetti bridge metaphor, the writers have boiled Thor and Loki so much that they can no longer support their stories. They are now just as useless as many of the new characters, and they don't have the strength to support the exponential growth of the multiverse plot. Again, another boiled spaghetti character is Nick Fury. Once powerful and mysterious, now appears weak and regularly gets outsmarted. A few years ago I could never have imagined a show about Nick Fury failing to turn a profit. It's genuinely impressive, but not in a good way. You might say they appear weak now because the actors have gotten old, but everyone can agree that Dumbledore and Gandalf are powerful and mysterious characters, so clearly it has nothing to do with age. The show Loki follows a character from a race of blue aliens as he learns to become a hero like his more popular rival. He gets imprisoned, and after some soul searching, he decides he doesn't want to be the bad guy anymore. Oh wait, that's the plot of Megamind. Sorry. Anyway, I was, like many, incredibly let down by the first episode of Loki Season 2 for one simple reason. There's almost no character. I can already hear you shouting, "What do you mean there's clearly characters here and here and here?" But you're wrong, and I'll tell you why. Because in episode 1, these aren't characters. They are just walking, talking exposition. The first episode is incredibly plot heavy. Juggling time slipping to the past, present and future, the temporal loom, pruning timelines, temporal extraction, Kang taking over the TVA. There is so much plot to juggle that there's almost no time for character exploration in a 40-minute episode, which is crazy when compared to other shows. I think we can all agree that the best parts of the Loki show is the relationship between Loki and Mobius. I try not to think about the relationship between Loki and Sylvie, or Miss Minutes and Kang from episode 3. But even if we include them, there still isn't enough character connections to balance the massive amount of exposition. However, I will say, I am enjoying watching Ouroboros. He is fun, but once again, every conversation with him is expositional. Whether he's talking about time slipping or the temporal loom, he isn't an actual character with flaws, ambitions or interests. He's just a function within the story who knows how to fix the plot. I have a theory about Loki Season 2. Remember in episode 1 when Mobius meets Obi for the first time? Obi claims to have met Mobius 400 years ago, but Mobius doesn't remember that. Well, I think the reason that Mobius doesn't remember meeting Obi before the events of episode 1 is because he hasn't met him. Yet. I believe at some point towards the end of the season, Mobius is going to time slip like Loki, and he is going to meet Obi in the past. I will say that episodes 2 and 3 are an improvement on the first, but that's not saying much. In episode 2 we get to see Sylvie's connection to one of the timelines, as she tries to lead a normal life as a McDonald's employee. Then the rest of the episode focuses on time explosions to prevent the timeline branching any further. Hunter B-15 is devastated by this, because of the billions of people who just died, but we couldn't care less because we have no context. We don't get to see any of the timelines that were destroyed. It would have made more sense if they had blown up the McDonald's timeline. That could have been a powerful payoff to the start of the episode, because we know someone who lives there, and that timeline has an emotional connection to one of the main characters. But no, once again we have no context, no idea who these billions of people were, so this moment has no weight behind it. Despite not personally caring about the bombs going off, I do like that Hunter B-15 was devastated by this event. She has been clearly characterised to care more than most about these other timelines. And I like that the writers have maintained that as a consistent character trait for her, so far. I just hope there'll be a payoff for this setup at the end of the season. In episode 3, we learn a bit more about this variant of Kang, but once again the same trend persists. We get to see his character young for a brief moment, but immediately after this, we cut to when he is all grown up, skipping all of his character development and his journey to this point. So again I ask, how are we supposed to care about this character? I don't like how Marvel has been handling their characters. But something I do like is the overall style of the series. I know it's subjective and just an aesthetic, but I really do like how the show works. I've heard some people say it's just boring offices and dull walls, but I can really appreciate the details and effort taken to create a setting that feels displaced from any specific time or place. The unique mix of retro and futuristic technology definitely stands out when compared to other shows and movies. Clearly, money was spent to make it look good, and it does. But Doctor Who Series 11 also looked good, and we all know how well that was written. Just because it looks good doesn't mean the content is good. You know what they say, don't judge a book by its cover. From what I've seen so far, Season 2 seems to be your standard time loop plot. I'm guessing that time loop will be resolved in the last episode, so I can't make final judgment until that episode has ended. If they do what I expect, the rest of the show should be improved by watching the finale. Once you know why everything happens, like Mobius meeting Obi or Sylvie climbing out of the broken elevator. I know I've mentioned several positives throughout this video, but don't get me wrong, I think the concept for the show and Marvel's current strategy is fundamentally flawed for the reasons I mentioned at the start of the video. But who knows, maybe they have some big twist in mind, or some mid-season shake-up, and maybe Loki Season 2 will become my favourite Marvel project to date. It's unlikely, but as I say, you never know. I believe you should always try to keep an open mind. On your left is a video about why She-Hulk was a mistake, and on your right is a video about how TV shows manipulate your nostalgia. Which video will you choose to watch next?